management. I was an assistant plant manager at one point, and 17 years in environmental health and safety, multi-site responsibility in several roles in a variety of industries. So really enjoy sharing that knowledge, hopefully to help others improve their operation.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. So Philip, go ahead. And also this is being recorded, as you guys just saw. I meant to do it earlier. I will send the recording after to everyone. And we can also send the presentation as well. All right, Philip, you're on.
Yep. So again, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So want to just give some updates on heat stress and just talk a little bit about how we can be prepared to handle heat stress issues. So overall, we're going to talk about the need for improving workplace safety in hot environments. Talk about the National Emphasis Program. There's been a few changes in that, so we'll give some updates on that. Understanding worker stress, how to monitor that, how to help folks monitor their own condition, and then how we can eliminate the hazards. So start out looking at some statistics. So you can see here that from 1970 to 2022, 241 U.S. locations were experiencing extreme heat. And we all hear about what goes on in our environment from weather-related catastrophes. We've had those here in our region. I'm sure others have as well. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics, if you look at their stats from 2021 and through some updates in 2023, we're not improving overall in the industry when it comes to work-related deaths from environmental heat. So 36 in 2021, and the NSC injury shows that there were 55 in 2023. So it's steadily been increasing. It's not uncommon to have heat-related injuries. You can see here from some additional statistics from 2011 to 2020, 34,000 heat-related injuries according to the nation's health.org. And it's felt that these are significantly underreported because a lot of time heat-related injuries will get masked by some other injury associated with someone maybe having a heat issue, and it gets masked by an injury, maybe for example from a fall or something, and maybe the heat factor doesn't get taken into account. Also from 2011 to 2020, over 33,000 heat related injuries and 479 deaths. And again, it's felt like from an industry standpoint that that's probably significantly underreported.
Yeah, I'd also like to chime in. I don't know if you guys are American Society of Safety Professional people, but this magazine is from August, so they send magazines. But there was this article, it was actually heat stress injuries and the law. So if you guys are American Society of Safety Professional people and you get this magazine, it was kind of interesting read, but it's basically just about litigation and legal cases against the state heat plans. But the first paragraph talks about how there's been 436 heat exposure work related deaths between 2011 and 2021. So 436. And if you average that out 10 years, that's about 43 a year. And that actually looked right with what Philip put. But yeah, 43 a year. I thought that was interesting. But I'll talk a little bit more about this article here in a little bit. But keep going, Philip.
Yeah, so just taking a look at some of the associated regulations that cover heat stress. While there's currently not an OSHA standard that covers heat stress, they have often utilized the general duty clause to address heat related injuries and issues within environments. You can see that OSHA reported in the years from 86 to 23 that there were 348 hazardous heat related citations. 85 of those were prior to 2000. So that means since 2000, there's been a over 200% increase in citations using the general duty clause to address heat related issues. So for industries that are operations that may not be addressing that, OSHA does have the means to help us understand the significance of those by utilizing the general duty clause at their discretion. NIOSH also chimes in and recommends that a heat standard is needed based on the things that they're seeing. And in a lot of states who have state operated OSHA plans, actually have more stringent requirements related to heat. Obviously, the PPE standard can also apply because of the requirement to have a PPE hazard assessment means that our sites need to ensure that we've looked at all the potential exposures and that we're protecting our workers from the hazards that we identified in those assessments. And if that includes any sort of protective equipment, we should implement that and make sure we're putting in robust measures. Then there's some additional standards related outside of general industry that can be applicable as well. So what's new for heat stress? So in August of 2024, was the deadline for the comment period for OSHA's proposed new standard. Obviously, because regs always have a political thread in them because it's come out of governmental agencies. Anytime there's a change of the guard, if you will, in DC, things will get moved around or set back. So the comment period did get an extension after the recent change in DC, and that now has been moved out to April of 2026.
So, a little bit about, again, this article. Again, it talks about basically, okay, so basically there's no federal heat standard right now, but there's 5 states with heat exposure plans. So those are Minnesota, Oregon, California, Washington, and Colorado. So if you are in one of those states, you want to check out those state plans. But yeah, as Philip said, like OSHA is progressing towards a national heat standard, and it included that proposed rule submitted in July of 2024. And then there was a public hearing in June 2025. However, this year, as Philip said, changing of the guard, Trump signed an executive order titled Regulatory Freeze Pending Review. And that stated that all executive departments and agencies should not propose or issue any rule, including by sending a rule to the office of the Federal Register until the department has appointed or designated the president reviews and approves the rule. So that executive order, regulatory freeze pending review, is in right now. So I don't know how much is going to move forward with this, but I just wanted to let you know that that is what's going on. And basically that's what this article, again, American Society of Safety Professionals, August of this year talked about. All right, keep going.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background on what a national emphasis program is. So that's a temporary OSHA program that's designed to focus on specific hazards or high risk industries. OSHA bases that on things that they're seeing when they're out doing inspections, OSHA log reviews, NIOSH reports, peer review research, etc. Help them hone in on where these national emphasis programs may be needed. And there's been a number of those since 2008. The list includes combustible dust, silica, excavations and trenching, and heat, as we're discussing today. So the current NEP on heat stress, it just establishes a nationwide enforcement mechanism so that proactive inspections can be taken by OSHA inspectors. It targets high risk work sites before injuries and fatalities occur. So obviously prevention is key. It's emphasizing what employers' responsibilities are as far as providing potable water, rest and shade, acclimatization, and identifying what heat priority days are. That's anytime the ambient temperature is 80 or the heat index is actually 80 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. And then National Weather Service heat advisories that may be issued. So looking at the overall goals, this excuse me, this heat NEP, it's obviously the number one goal is to reduce heat related injuries and fatalities. So we talked about some of the statistics. So just looking at ways to prevent the serious heat related fatalities that can occur if action is not taken. It gives OSHA the opportunity to proactively inspect workplaces so they can be targeted or programmed inspections, high risk injuries or high risk industries. Obviously, the NAICS code can come into play there and helping identify those, OSHA logs as well. And then promoting employer responsibilities, again, making sure that employers are providing adequate preventive measures such as access to water, heat safety training, climatization, and other things to improve overall employee health. And it also helps improve the data collection component. For site selection, again, programmed inspections have to be neutral and use objective selection criteria. If there's been a heat related fatality or if a site has been cited, they are always subject to a follow up inspection. And then also follow ups apply to workplaces that have had a other than serious record keeping violation, such as failure to record a heat related injury or illness, or if there's indications that heat hazards are still present in the work environment, not implementing required controls, or abatement measures have not been taken to correct exposures. During heat related inspections, obviously the inspectors are going to want to take a look at your OSHA 300 logs. You want to make sure those are current and that they reflect any heat related illnesses that you're aware of. They'll review emergency room visits. So they're going to take a look at other documentation, any ambulance transportation or other medical records that would indicate a heat exposure. They can interview workers that are presenting any type of physical condition that indicates that they may currently or have had a heat exposure, such as headaches, dizziness, painting. And they will determine if the employer has a injury program that addresses heat exposures. So that's going to also include things such as how are you monitoring ambient temperatures and levels of work exertion at the site. So the written plan, you should have a system that indicates how you manage those. How do you track that? Was there unlimited cool water available? Are you using the buddy system so that workers are not alone? So if someone does have a heat stress issue, someone's checking in on them, and if they need immediate assistance, that person can support so that someone doesn't have an issue and not have someone there to help speak on their behalf if they can't on their own. And then are administrative controls in place? Are you doing job rotation, changing work hours, things of that nature to try to minimize the exposure to extreme heat conditions? And are your training regimens good? Are you training your personnel on how to know if they're experiencing a heat issue, how to monitor their own hydration levels, and how to contact emergency personnel if they're having a medical episode? So the NEP directs OSHA to focus on heat related issues so that overall worker safety can be improved, and it coordinates agencies to make sure that monitoring, data sharing, and reporting are uh, available across all agencies. It does require inspectors to perform more frequent inspections to look for heat issues, focus the attentions on target industries, and directs attention to the issue and encourages compliance. So that's a summary of the current NEP.
And then we do have a client recently that it is a very hot work environment. And someone did like go to the hospital because they weren't feeling good. And it was a heat related injury or illness, I guess you would say. Um, and when they did the investigation, they didn't come on site, but they did call, and then they asked the safety manager like what kind of heat stress program do you have? And he had one. But so the manager was like, yeah, we have a program, like we have water breaks, more breaks. We give away like the little electrolyte electrolyte popsicles, just all the things and training, things like that. And the OSHA person on the other line was like, oh, that's good to hear because like other people I talked to were like, what's a heat stress program? So I definitely, obviously, I would recommend if your people do work in hot environments that you guys do put together a written heat stress program with all the things we're talking about today. OSHA.gov/heat exposure has really great info you can pull. And as you see at the bottom of this, the source CPL 0301024, that's on their website, and that's all about the National Emphasis Program that Philip's talking about. But pull stuff from there and make sure you're doing that and to keep people safe. Um, Philip, we do have two questions in the chat. Do you want me to ask you that now, or do you want to wait to the end?
Well, we can go ahead and get them.
Okay. What are people doing to understand heat or thermal stress as a contributing factor in a first report of injury or even a root cause analysis?
Hmm. I don't have any current knowledge of that. You have you encountered that?
So what I'm thinking is that, so the question is, what are people doing to understand heat stress as a contributing factor during their injury and illness investigation? I think just asking that, like when you do your investigation, asking those questions like, or even knowing the weather, like what's the weather outside? Like, are you in a hot environment? What were you doing? Or were you doing strenuous work? When's the last time you took a break? When's the last time you had water? Um, Maybe they're drinking stuff they shouldn't be drinking. Like maybe it's their third cup of coffee of the day. So, when you do your investigations, asking those questions that, okay, maybe heat was a factor in this. Um, because of the strenuous work you were doing, or because it's 95 degrees out today and you are working in the sun, you know what I mean? So I would just have those thoughts in mind when you're doing your incident investigation. And then another question is, what are people using to measure and monitor hydration levels? Philip's does have a slide about that, but with the hydration levels, like, you can look at the color of your urine. And actually, one of our clients, their corporate team has them actually put that in their bathroom stalls so people can see that. But I think it's also important to make sure, okay, are people drinking the right amount of water during their breaks? Like making sure they're actually getting some water in and not like coffee or, maybe drinks with electrolytes would be good. All right. Keep on keeping on, unless you have anything else to add, Philip.
No, good answers there. So Randy mentioned creating a health illness prevention plan. So that's a great thing to have. I know the weather, at least here, is starting to cool off. So sometimes we get out of the mindset of weather being a factor. But if you have a hot work environment where you have, such as a foundry or a steel mill, obviously heat may be a year-round issue. But having this in place, uh, now, so the next time summer sneaks up on us and the hot weather is in play again, then you already have your plan and what your response levels are. So having a written program, having personnel trained on it, is a great way to be prepared for that. So you just want to assign in there who are the stakeholders, what is each person's responsibility, how do you acclimatize your personnel, new hires, temporary workers, anybody who's been away from work for an extended period of time. What is the process for getting those folks back into the work environment without creating an upset condition for them? And then what engineering controls are you using, such as fans, air conditioning, shading, or specific structures to give folks a reprieve. Also, how are you measuring your heat exposure or the stress levels? Are you using a wet bulb, dry bulb thermometer, utilizing weather stations, some sort of trustworthy app? A couple that are mentioned here are potential ways to do that, but you want to definitely encapsulate that in your prevention plan. And then, what are your response levels? If there are heat advisories for your area, and making sure that your supervisory staff, leadership team know what their responsibilities are to take action prior to people getting into a heat stress condition. So the three key ways to protect workers is to ensure that cool water is available, shade or a cool location is available, and taking breaks. So looking at the cool water, obviously making sure that potable water is available, but also helping people understand that coffee and drinks such as this big tendency for people to drink uh, power drinks is definitely important to help people understand that a lot of those have a diuretic tendency, and they can actually wick water from your body, and they can also mask fatigue. So sometimes that energy drink can actually make you feel uh, like you have energy maybe that you don't have, and you can overexert and actually either be expending more liquids, or the energy drink tricks you into thinking that you can do something and you end up with an injury because you're actually fatigued and you're just not recognizing that because of the caffeine and some of the other constituents that are in those drinks. And then air conditioned either vehicles, shaded areas, or some purpose built structure to help folks get out of the heat, especially for outdoor work activities, is important. And then just making sure that they're taking care of themselves when they're not at work. Training and communication are key there. So Brandy mentioned this earlier. Your body will tell you, it's a great tool, and it will tell you where things stand in relation to your hydration level. And she mentioned that some clients are actually posting this in the restroom area just so folks can know uh, if they're keeping their body hydrated just by looking at the color of their urine. So a great way to measure what's going on. So we talked about acclimatization, just helping someone work themselves into maybe a heat role where they haven't been completing those types of tasks. And so this is just a recommended best practice as far as helping folks build up for heat exposure. Most outdoor fatalities, according to OSHA, between 50 and 70% occur within the first few days of taking on a job that you're not accustomed to. So it's really important to give folks an opportunity to build up uh, an ability to withstand that, learn what they need to do as far as hydration, and know what their body is telling them, and then what they need to do to stay out ahead of any potential issue. So some of the symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke, uh, people need to understand that as well. It's very important to use this during your training to help folks know, that they may be having an onset, what kind of first aid treatment would be needed, whether it's just sitting down, getting some air, or whether it's the extreme for heat stroke of making sure you get proper professional medical attention by calling 911 or utilizing on-site medical services, getting submerged in water or in cold water, or actually icing down based on the severity of the exposure. Risk factors there. So obviously someone's personal health and condition can be a risk factor. If someone's overweight, a smoker, have pre-existing conditions, those can definitely contribute to the heat being more of an issue. For taking certain medications, diuretics, and things that actually will dehydrate, those can be an issue as well. The work environment, what is the heat level, are the things that are actually exacerbating the heat, such as hot work processes or things that are actually generating additional heat. What's the exertion level? Are they lifting? Are they pushing, pulling? What's the nature of the job? Are they operating heavy equipment? So you need to understand what those risk factors are and train your personnel so that they know how it can actually expedite or increase their potential exposure to a heat issue. So there are some PPE, obviously, from our hierarchy of controls. This is our last line of defense, but these can be beneficial as well. So loose fitting clothing, light colored, that's important so that it does, especially for outdoor work, so that you get proper airflow and you're not wearing something dark that can actually uh, work as a magnet for the heat. Ice vest and cooling devices can be utilized. The little simple neck bands that can help provide uh, cooling around the neck can be beneficial as well. And then wearing like a big brim hat that can keep sun off of your face and neck, or having some sort of shade or visor on a hard hat if you're working in that type of environment. All those can be beneficial PPE to use in these types of events. So a lot of resources, NOAA, they have heat index charts that you can refer to know what level of protections you need to be putting in place for your personnel. There are apps. That's a screenshot there on the right from the OSHA NIOSH heat safety app, which it looks at your local uh, your location, and it will look at the temp and the humidity and give you the heat index factor for the current conditions, and you can utilize that with what you have documented in your written program so that you know what action levels you need to be attending to. NIOSH also, there's also a heat safety tool, additional resources available there. Point you to that as well for reference. And that's the end of the information shared. Just have here on on this last slide. If you guys want to reach out to us, our website address is there, and Brandy and my emails are there as well. Welcome any reach out. We may be able to help you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Philip. That was awesome. A lot of great information there. Yeah, and I know it's 9:31, so I appreciate everyone for hopping on today. I'm glad you guys were able to make it. But like I said in the chat, we are going to send out the recording, the link, so you'll be able to watch it. And yeah, just thank you so much. And